Who dat to the Who Dat Nation? Welcome to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and the 2024-25 New Orleans Saints NFL football season is over. The Week 18 matchup between the Saints and the Buccaneers have went final. And the New Orleans Saints, with the opportunity to play spoiler against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay needed a win in order to make the playoffs, whereas the Saints weren't going anywhere. All they could do is play spoilers. But in this season finale, the New Orleans Saints come up short in that effort as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rally from behind to come out victorious by the score of 27-19 this Sunday in Tampa. The Bucs at one point were trailing 16-6. Matter of fact, I think that was the score at halftime. And they finished their regular season at 10-7. They are the NFC South champions with this victory, and they march on to the playoffs. The Saints, on the other hand, they finished 5-12 on the season. Interim head coach Darren Rizzi, he went 3 for 5 after taking over for Dennis Allen, and the Saints have lost their final 4 games of the season. Quarterback Spencer Rattler, who, a lot of people, including myself, wanted to get a bird's eye view at through the course of this season. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of Derek Carr being injured, but we got 6 chances to look at Spencer Rattler this season, and this was his 6th start of the year, and he hasn't won a game yet. Taking over for Derek Carr, but I would argue that this was probably his better games as a starter. I really liked what I saw today. Now, in the first half, let me put it like that. First half, he looked like a franchise quarterback. He looked like the guy in that first half. Second half, not so much. Now, it wasn't horrible in the second half, but he missed a lot of throws that probably could have changed this game. We had opportunities late in the game to whereas we could have kind of iced this game, pulled away, and we just didn't get it done. He did go 26 for 43 for 240 yards with a 5-yard touchdown pass, but it wasn't enough. Rattler, he did connect with 10 different players. Juwan Johnson was the leading receiver. He had 6 catches for 80 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he had 8 carries for 26 yards. The Saints, they were missing 7 offensive players from the start, including Derek Carr. And so you had that to factor in as well. But even with that, the Saints were giving it to Tampa. That's why I believe Tampa is going to be one and done in the playoffs. If I read it correctly, I think Tampa will probably have to play Minnesota. The good news in Tampa land, I guess you could say, is in Tampa. Other than that, Minnesota might put the powwow on them in the playoffs next week, but we shall see. In today's game, we saw Blake Grupe, our kicker. He made 4 field goals today, a 35, a 39, a 39, and a 49 today. Tampa quarterback Baker Mayfield, he was 20 for 31, 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Safety Jordan Howden, he had an interception today. Linebacker Newface Sewell had the long sack today on Baker Mayfield. Speaking of Baker Mayfield, he scrambled 9 times for 68 yards today, which was embarrassing. Now, I know Baker Mayfield is mobile. He will break the pocket, but some of the runs he had in this game was embarrassing. As a defense, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Summarizing this game, as I said before, going into this, I figured the Saints would lose. I actually thought the Saints were going to lose big. I was shocked. I was caught off guard by the game. I really thought that Tampa, knowing that they needed this game, especially with Atlanta playing the Carolina Panthers, who, as I predicted, Carolina brought it. This was their Super Bowl. Carolina played like they had a shot at the playoffs. Carolina played like the Saints should have played today. And Carolina has less talent, less weapons, less everything than the New Orleans Saints. But I couldn't tell. Them people put up, 40-something points on Atlanta today. They went to overtime, but they went at Atlanta. In Atlanta. It was a shootout over there. But ultimately, it all worked out according to plan anyway, because Tampa ended up winning. But, the Saints' lack of effort and discipline really showed today. It really showed why they are 5-12. They put themselves in situations that I don't know. It's like head scratching. You take 2 steps forward and they end up doing something to take 5 steps back. And you can set your watch to it. It's like it's going to happen. For instance, on defense, the Saints will get Tampa in 3rd and long every single drive. Every single rip, 3rd and long. And I'm talking 3rd and 8, 3rd and 14s, 3rd and, situations like that. But without fail, they allow Tampa to convert time and time again. It is unbelievable how this team cannot get on the same page with one another. Time and time again. Today I had enough. Today I sat there. Every time a pass was thrown, or a touchdown pass, or a big conversion, you'll see the safety or somebody get mad, turn around looking like, where's my help? Screaming this. And it clicked. It dawned on me at that moment. I'm like, wait, we get this every single week. Every week, a safety is complaining somebody is not where they're supposed to be. Every week. Or it'll be a cornerback do it. Every week, where's the safety help? And this has been going on for years. This didn't just start when Dennis Allen left. It was going on when he was here. It's like, man, nobody knows where they're supposed to be. It's unbelievable. But everything was shown today. The fact that you can't get a pass rush, you can't generate a pass rush, the fact that our linebackers can't cover, all of that was on display for the world to see today. Now, we've seen it throughout, but this was like a bookend. This was like the perfect end to the chapter that is the 2024-25 football season. Offensively, it's kind of hard to pick on the offense here. It's really hard to say something about the offense because the offense didn't have nobody. There was nobody on offense starter-wise. There's nobody. I feel bad for Spencer Rattler because Spencer Rattler would never get a fair shake in New Orleans. If Spencer Rattler wants to have a chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, he will have to leave New Orleans because I don't believe, at least under this current structure of the New Orleans Saints, they'll never give him a fair shake. And when I say fair shake, he'll never have Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, as his primary go-to receivers. He won't have Kamara behind him as his running back. He won't have these weapons at his arsenal because they're not going to give it to him. They're going to keep Derek Carr in this situation, which is the wrong choice. Going into next season, which I don't know what the next season is going to be. We're going to go over that next week when we do the year wrap-up. But as far as this game is concerned, Spencer Rattler had nothing. Yeah, he had Valquez Scantling. Sure. He had Juwan Johnson. He had Foster Monroe. But what premier standout offensive weapon does he have at his disposal, has ever had in the 6 starts that he had this season? He haven't had it. And I got to look at it from the perspective of he's doing the best he can with what he has. And quite frankly, that's not how I want to evaluate a potential franchise quarterback. I need him to be with the starters. It's only fair. Because right now, yeah, he looks good to me. But I cannot honestly say, and nobody can honestly say, that he's the future. Now, with that being said, Derek Carr, he had all those weapons that I named earlier and looked just as productive, if not worse, than Spencer Rattler with nothing, far less than what he had, including experience. But that's neither here nor there. But the New Orleans Saints today, it was just, they overachieved in the first half, and the second half, it was basically this the real team. And look, a shout out to Darren Rizzi. He doesn't have a snowball chance in where to become the New Orleans Saints head coach, but I give him an A for effort for trying. I really do, and I like him. But nah, he won't be the head coach. Who will be the head coach? We shall see. We'll see who they bring in. A lot of names have been bantied about on who the Saints are going to bring in for an interview. I'm sitting here trying to wonder and figure out why they haven't brought anybody in yet. See, this is why me and Mickey Loomis can never be in the same room at the same time, because I'll probably slap him to sleep. He does stupid stuff. He's so secretive and don't need to be. The Jets are interviewing people. The Jets been fired their head coach. They are searching. Why it took so long for this thing? You've been fired, Dennis Allen. You should have been searching. You should have been conducting interviews. Why are you going to drag this process out? Let me tell you why you're going to drag it out. Because you don't know what you're doing. Mickey Loomis does not know what he's doing. This dude is not a good general manager. But I guess, and in the next week or so, we're going to get a patented press conference with the gum chewing. We don't know what we're talking about. But here we sit, 5-12, another year without a playoff, another year without any answers on quarterback or any other position, another year where we're going to have to play kick the can down the road with this salary cap. I mean, who really, honestly, who don't know what they're talking about or don't know what they're looking at? Got to be Mickey Loomis here. Let's go back to this game here. We're going to rant about Mickey Loomis and going forward next week. Trust me, it's going to be fun. But let's wrap out this NFL season with this Tampa game. Let's go over the stats of today's games, beginning with passing. For the New Orleans Saints, Spencer Rattler was 26 for 42, 240 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked twice today, but no interceptions. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield was 21 for 32, 221 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 1 time today. Leading rusher for both teams, for the Saints, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 8 carries for 26 yards. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was Bucky Irvin, 19 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown. Leading receiver for the New Orleans Saints was Jawan Johnson, 6 catches for 80 yards. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was Mike Evans, 9 catches for 89 yards. And with that, Mike Evans got 1,000 yards receiving, got it on the last play of the game, giving him 11 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons, putting him in the record book with the great Jerry Rice, and that is an accomplishment. Whether you hate the man or not, hate the team he reps or not, you got to tip your hat to that accomplishment. Obviously, it's not that easy to do because only one other man has done it, and that other man is considered the greatest wide receiver to ever play the game. So I tip my hat to Mike Evans in that accomplishment. Team stats, beginning with first down, Saints had 19 first downs, Tampa had 20. Third down efficiency, the Saints were 3 for 13. That's why we lost. 3 for 13 on third down. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 10 for 16. On fourth down, Saints were 2 for 3. Tampa was 1 for 1. Total plays, Saints ran 63 total plays, Tampa 64. Total yardage, Saints 292, Tampa 395. Total drives, Saints had 9 drives to Tampa's 10. Yards per play, Saints 4.6 to Tampa's 6.2. Passing yardage, Saints 228 yards passing to Tampa's 216. Rushing, Saints had 64 yards rushing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 179. Red zone, Saints were 1 for 2 in the red zone. Tampa 2 for 3. Time of possession, at one point Saints was winning time of possession just astronomically. Well, that changed. Time of possession, Saints had the ball for 27 minutes and 44 seconds. Tampa Bay had the ball for 32 minutes and 16 seconds today. Going over the grades for the matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where we grade every unit of the New Orleans Saints, offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. Beginning with offense gets a C+, and they get a C+ because they looked really good in that first half. That was a really well-called, well-executed first half. Spencer Rattler was putting the ball in places that, man, I was wondering how he's squeezing these tight throws in these little spaces between defenders and over the shoulder, back shoulder throws. I mean, Spencer Rattler looked like the guy in that first half, and it was night and day, man. Night and day. In that second half, it was high throws, low throws, overthrows, it taking sacks and sitting in the pocket way too long. It was just dumb stuff he was doing. I don't know what happened in that second half. Granted, Tampa did adjust defensively and did some things differently, but like, come on. They weren't doing nothing that crazy. They weren't running stunts and all. It would at least nothing that would confuse him to the point where he would do something outlandish. Because he didn't turn the ball over, thank God. Derek Carr would have turned the ball over. But he didn't do all that. But he felt like he was rushing a lot of throws. They didn't run the ball efficiently enough. Granted, they didn't have any good running backs. But, offensively, they get a C+. Defense gets a C-. Defense, it's hard to put a finger on it, man, because what can you say? I mean, honest to God, what can you say about this defense? The defense just is what it is. They are not a good defense. They're old. They're slow. They're out of position every play. They'll like give you a good play on second down. Like second down is their money down. Second down, they're gonna make a good play. They'll make a big hit. They'll make a nice coverage pass defense, I want to say, stuff like that. But then on third down, it's like they forget everything that they did to get to this point. It's amazing to me. It's mind-boggling. But they get a C-. Special teams gets an A. Special teams, I mean, hey, man. I mean, what else can I say? Blake Grupe, MVP of the season. Blake Grupe was the best thing on this team all year. The most consistent thing on this team all year, and that's Blake Grupe. There's no more need to be said. Coaching gets a B-. I think they came in with a nice game plan. Darren Rizzi, Joe Woods, Clint Kubiak. They came in with a really good game plan, I feel. Really good because they really caught Tampa off guard. Tampa didn't know. I think Tampa initially were looking past the Saints. Rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? Rightfully so. They were supposed to look past them. And the Saints just didn't capitalize at the end. They couldn't adjust like they haven't adjusted all season. So none of that catches me off guard. I don't even, it's to the point now I don't even let that affect the grade because they don't know how to adjust, obviously. But the Saints, I feel they had a really good plan going in. They were throwing everything against the wall. It's the last game of the year. They're not going anywhere. Let's go. Let's just say, forget it. We're going to try this, see if this works. They could have did a little more, of course, but for the most part, they did all right. Overall, the New Orleans Saints performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today gets a C, flat out C, average. And for the most part, that's the season for me. I'm not in that camp that this is an F of a season. This really isn't an F. All things considered. You got to look at it from all spectrums here. You got to look at it from the aspect of you have a new offensive coaching staff, I guess, scheme that came in here this season. All right. Even though it looks like Pete Carmichael 2.0 at times, but it's a new scheme. And so you got that going against you. We have injuries that played the part. And I mean major injuries throughout the season that played the part. Schedule structure. It was a couple of weeks there where the schedule was just crazy. Saints had to play 3 games in 12 days or something crazy like that. Playing your former head coach, in the dome on prime time. Your coach getting fired and all this other stuff. There's a lot that went on this season. This was just a hodgepodge of a mess here. And not to mention this final game, there's a lot of emotion behind it and this, that, and the third. And so, that it's been a wild ride this season. But a lot of this could have been avoided. The Saints could have found a way to make the most out of this situation. I'm not saying they could have rallied together and won a division and went on to the playoffs and all this here. I wasn't expecting all that, but I was expecting a bigger effort from this team this season, and that didn't happen. And so a lot of changes will have to be made. A lot of changes will be made in the upcoming weeks. But that's it for this week's matchup this season. But this week here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New Orleans Saints fall 27-19. Now the Saints will finish the season 5-12, dead last in the division. I forgot to name, give y'all that little nugget as well. With Carolina beating Atlanta, they move ahead of the Saints. Now they have the same record as the Saints. They're 5-12, but they have a better division record than us. So they get to move ahead of us in the division, even though we beat them once, but they beat us. And so, we're dead last. So we get the honor and the privilege to have a last place schedule, I guess you could say. But we'll see how that works out. But I would like to know, what did you think of today's game? Are you disappointed? Did you want the Saints to play spoiler and send Tampa Bay home on the couch with us? Or are you happy that Atlanta is on the couch with us today? Like I said, it was a win-win for us, really. Either way it went, somebody was sitting next to us on the sofa of despair. But if I had to choose, I would have choose Atlanta, and that's what we got. So that's why I'm not tripping at all. But I would love to know your thoughts, and what are your thoughts going into this off season as the Saints prepare for the biggest off season in this franchise's history. Woo! This is going to be a big one. let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this show. This was I had to power through. I had to soldier through this one. I don't know if you can notice, but I am completely stuffed up. I'm still getting over this, I don't know, flu or whatever it is that I had over the holidays. And I thought I was coming down from it. Then it came back up yesterday. And today I feel a little better, but I'm still congested. But it's the last game of the season. I couldn't put this on the back burner. And so I toughed through it, soldiered through it, and finished it all out. But including that game. I had to soldier through watching that game like everybody else had to. But this has been a wild season. And I thank all of you for joining me on this journey. The rest of the Who Dat Nation who were a part of this just whirlwind of emotions this season as a New Orleans Saints fan. It was tough. It was tough, but we got through it. We got through it. Now we play the waiting game. Now we sit back and see what's next for the Who Dat Nation. Everybody, next week I will be doing a season wrap-up episode as we go through this season and kind of predict going forward. What is the Saints' next move? Of course, getting a head coach, but with the head coach, what type of head coach are we looking for in the draft? Where do we start in the draft? We have so many positions of need. And so which one is the most pressing? Which one should we attack with our top 10 pick? It's a lot on the table here. Like I said, there's a lot of decisions to be made in the Who Dat Nation and over there on Airline Drive. But we shall see how it all turns out. But we will be back next week. So please don't forget to come back and join us for that. Everybody, thank you for joining me throughout the entire season, supporting the show. Deeply appreciated. I love you all. And once again, for everybody in New Orleans, in the 504, affected by this act of terror that took place on January the 1st, my heart, my love, my prayers all go out to you. The city of New Orleans as a whole, you know that we are resilient, and we're going to bounce back from this, and we're going to keep marching on. Just like the Who Dat Nation, we're going to continue to march on. And just like when we win, I'm going to scream it when we lose as well. Who dat?